Welcome to the CEO of Destiny podcast, where you will find the tools to fulfill the purpose of your generation and wildly succeed in the marketplace. And now your host, Andre J. Benjamin.
About 2 or 3 weeks before she turned 5, she literally came up to me in her little 4-year-old self-assured sense, and she said, "Mama, I'm ready now."
Wow.
So I pulled that out. Again, I was like, are we going to have another tantrum today? I pulled out the stuff, and it was bliss.
Night and day.
Was emotionally ready. She was cognitively ready. And she was a reader within days, right?
Wow.
By the time she was 7, she was reading books written for 11-year-olds, and it was just her thing. If I had kept pushing, because I'm the mom,
Yeah.
our relationship would have been damaged. She would have hated reading, even though she could have done it. But I would not have gotten that wisdom on my own, right? I think in the throes of parenting, we get so busy, we get so stressed, we can forget that we need to spend time and take the time first thing every day, whatever it is, before we go to bed, to really be in prayer.
Yes.
Because if we're not, we're going to miss the forest for the trees in our own fallen wisdom.
Well, this is true. Thank you for sharing that. We had one, as we're wrapping up, we had one of our children. They really love animals. Actually, 2 of them do really a lot. And the other one is just her own individual, which is hilarious. But the 2 of them.
There's always one.
There's always one, right? So they both love animals really well. But one child in particular has loved the Dr. Dolittle, the original ones, the real thick ones, just dives into them and just knows all these things about animals naturally. So it's probably nature smart, right? That's probably
I would say so. Yeah.
Because they're just highly motivated by just tells us all kinds of things, and will get angry if I don't buy one of those National Geographic books. I said, in my mind, because you think about your preferences, I'm saying you're not going to sit and read this book and care about this book, but gets mad about it, says, "I'll get my own money then." And then they get it. I get it for them. And within days, they're recalling all this stuff. They've read through the whole thing and they're telling me, So anyway, there was a book that was also about, this is the one I'm working with in homeschool. So it's a literature-based curriculum. And I realized that some of the books that they had were not that's why I love how you pointed out, you put in what works for you and you take out what doesn't work for you. There's no connection of you have to read fiction writing and have to write poetry and all this creative writing skill is a must for you to be a well-rounded. That is again the square peg going into the circle. But there was a book that I put in a lot of memoirs and biographies because I want them to read people from the time frame rather than them just reading about wars as a prompt to know about a time frame. It just seemed weird to me that it was, what is this general and but when it was connected to a story, so he's reading about the world's smartest horse, which I had never heard of. And this guy was like a real life Dr. Dolittle. They came from the World's Fair. It's the fascinating story about the beautiful Jim Key, this horse. This man trained this horse. The horse was able to go pick up the letters and spell words. The horse was able to cite, scripture through spelling it it was just this crazy thing I never had heard before. But he's telling me about it, and he's telling me about the time frame unconsciously as my child talks to me about. He's saying, "Oh, yes, and this is the late 1800s, and this was going on, and then there was this, and most of their friends were going through." And I'm like, this is to me a more meaningful connection to history than it would be if I were to just sit down and say, "Now tell me about who was, this,
right.
What happened in Virginia on."
Or here, take this test. I mean, honestly, really?
So I love the permission that's granted and the tool that you've created for parents to help them go forward. I mean, consistent resource. And can you now point them, talk to our audience about some of the things you're working on currently, or is there more work? What can they expect from you on this? What is there more to come out of this work, or are you working on something else in the kitchen as well?
My husband has said, when's the next book coming out? So, so we'll see. If I do have an idea. It probably, working title, tips and tricks to homeschool, like for low cost or no cost, because I know that's an issue. So it'd be more practical tips. And that's, the idea that I've got floating around. And I'm always working on the roadmap. So I'm always adding and editing so that when you go there, it should be up to date. And because that's just an ongoing thing. And then about a year ago, a local friend and I opened up a homeschool parent resource center in my community. But we also have a podcast through that. So we reach kind of beyond our community. And that's been really fun to in my community, talk to people who want to homeschool but feel stuck. What is it in their situation that we can help them with? And then the podcast has just been a neat way to do outreach. And one of the things that goes along with that, she and I are both saying to other veteran homeschoolers, maybe you homeschooled all the way through, your kids are almost done or they're done, become a mentor. Don't just be done and go on, because now we have time, right? Now, when my grandbaby gets born, I don't know if I'll have time, because my time's going to go there. But right now I have time, right? So I was poured into by people who were mentors and veterans when I was young. And so my calling, and Jenny is my colleague at the Homeschool Loft, which is the center we have. Our calling is to now pour into other parents.
I love it.
And you don't have to have a center. I mean, we happen to have this little space. I was doing it in coffee shops, just meeting one-on-one with people before we opened this up. And you can, if you have 1 year experience as a homeschooler, you're that much more experienced than the new person, right? Yeah. So don't just, focus on your family. Your kids are your priority. That's your ministry. That's your calling.
Yes.
But you have some time where you can, incrementally pour in to other people.
I told some the parents who I knew that were longtime homeschoolers, when everything went to distance learning, and then parents were trying to figure out what to do for the fall, and said, maybe because some of them weren't satisfied with what they saw with the distance, it kind of put a sour taste in their mouth. So they say, you know what, I'll just do it myself. And so I was telling the parents who I knew that were at raised avid homeschool, I said, this is your shining moment to be able to, because people are looking for an answer right now. And this is when you can emerge, and you can, a group of you can come forth. And I love that word, mentoring, because people right now are still, I don't believe the dust has settled from all the changes that are going on. So just creating the option. And I love that, the resource. So can you talk about where people can find you? How can they find you? How can they find your work? And how can they get a hold of, where can they purchase? They
can go to Amazon for that, or Barnes & Noble, or you found it in Barnes & Noble, I think, right? You said?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. It's on Christian book distributors. So pretty much any place books are sold, I think you can find the book. My website, which I have a link to the book there as well, is called the Homeschool Resource Roadmap, homeschoolroadmap.org. And then my podcast is on our website. You can reach it out of there. It's called the Homeschool Loft. So that is homeschoolloft.com. And we have a link to our podcast episodes there if they want to hear. We have endeavored to interview a whole bunch of really neat veteran experienced homeschool people. So we've got about 50 episodes out already. And that's not my wisdom. It's just we've been able to tap into other people's wisdom. So.
What for any of the audience, are there any, do you have any people that have really inspired you in this work, that have really inspired you? You want to shout out any of the ones that have inspired you in either parenting, homeschooling, or just education in general, where they've helped pull out some things that have really been insightful to you?
All right, quick shout out. If you're thinking about homeschooling, but you feel like you need some motivation, to know about the history of public schooling to kind of get you going there. Like you see something's not right, but you're not sure. Read anything by John Taylor Gatto, Gatto.
I literally just thought that name as soon as you keep going. I love the
right. But you know what? He was a public school teacher, and he decided to do the research into where the system came from. Again, it's not about teachers, it's about the system. And he's like, this is a psychotic system. It's not teachers, it's the system.
Yes.
But I didn't know about it until I was out of the system. And his work is great. He's gone to be with the Lord. So, he's not around anymore, but his work is. The very first parenting / homeschooling book I read was For the Children's Sake by Susan Schaefer Macaulay. She's the daughter of Francis Schaefer, who was a really key apologist in the 60s and 70s. That's just a sweet book. The Joy of Relationship Homeschooling by Karen Campbell. That is also a really, really wonderful one. And a recent one that we interviewed her, two recent ones. We interviewed these people on our podcast. A Homeschool Bravely by Jamie Erickson.
Okay.
If you're like, I don't want to do this, but I think I should, but I don't want to, and I'm scared, read her book.
Yes.
And then another new one, The 4-Hour School Day by Dorinda Wilson. And she's a veteran homeschool mama, and she has written lots of books, but that's her most recent one. And it'll kind of show you how homeschooling can be so efficient that, yes, you want to be excellent and pour into your kids and not shirk your responsibility, but it doesn't have to take all day, every day. And a lot of tips and tricks for that. So
I love it. As we're wrapping up, what would you say? Because the purpose of our podcast and our show is to help people bring a return on the investment of their creator. We want people in every area, that's business, that is life, that's finance and parenting, marriage, and whatever walk of life people find themselves in. We believe in that. What can you say in your own words what you believe making your child a CEO of their own destiny means?
Like you said, children are not vessels to be poured into, with other things. They've got their God-given strengths, abilities, purpose, calling in life. Our job as a parent is to, first of all, we have to understand that God gave us our kids because he trusts us and he believes in us and he expects us to pull that out, right? So we have the confidence of the Father that he gave us our kids for a reason. So our responsibility is to draw that out, like you said, to light that fire, to help them to see what their calling is. And it's a supreme responsibility. It's also a supreme joy.
Yes.
Think about what a blessing that is that we get to do that. And try to think positively about that, even though there are hard moments, because my kids are adults now. The days are long, but the years are few.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Tina. Any last things you want to say to our audience as we're closing out?
No, I just think love on your kids and just take them as the blessing they are, even in the hard moments.
8 great smarts for homeschoolers. Tina Hollenbeck, this is a great interview. Get this resource, check out her website, get more information. You can, for all things Tina, you can go to, is it the Homeschool Resource Map?
Homeschool Resource Roadmap.
Homeschool Resource Roadmap.
Homeschoolroadmap.org is the URL.
Homeschoolroadmap.org. I want to make sure it's good. It's going to be put on the screen and all that, but homeschoolroadmap.org for all things Tina. Follow her on. Go check out the podcast. Give some feedback. Get engaged in the conversation. Get active. We want people to be mobilized, to be able to strategically have impact in their family's life. We want to see families flourish. So thank you for your time, and may God bless you in your journey. Shalom.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do us a favor. If this was useful in any way for you, please go to iTunes and leave us a review. Reviews will allow others to easily discover the podcast. If you'd like more information and to receive a free download, Rediscover Your Destiny, go to ceoofdestiny.com. Thanks again, and tune in next time.